static cut.
Of me when you are all alone. Maybe the one.
Over the years, cinema has been shaped by various elements. Some of these stay and becoming a standard, and others appearing and being used for a while, but then being put aside and sometimes even being forgotten. But today, we will talk about two elements that have been around almost since the beginning of this industry, the color and sound. Welcome to this video, where we will explore how these two elements were introduced and how they have evolved since their origin. That's the beginning. Let's start at the beginning with one of the most striking things in a movie, the color. Although it may not seem so, due to the large number of black and white films that exist, the truth is that from the beginning there was a desire to be able to project color films. Now, what was the first color film? There are several answers to this question, derived from the fact that there were many techniques to achieve it. But starting from the beginning, the first color film was made in 1901, an unnamed film created by Edward Turner. And the way this was made possible was by using a rather complex technique. To begin with, the film was first recorded in black and white, and then later had color using filters with the three primary colors, green, red, and blue, which, when combined in different gradations, were able to give color to the film. But unfortunately, given the complexity of the system, as well as the use of a special projector to project the film with the filters, this system never became popular and was completely abandoned. But the basis of the three primary colors would be a breakthrough that would continue to be used for a long time.
There's nothing I couldn't do if I had you.
Another technique to give color to the films would be the manual inking and coloring the tapes. This involved coloring the film frame by frame. This often resulted in more vivid scenes. A number of films were created using this system. Among them were those of Giorgio Mele, one of the most renowned filmmakers of the early 20th century, and for creating the first film studio in France. But even with all this, the system was quite cumbersome to make. So for just 1 hour, a film could have around 90,000 frames. So as soon as productions began to lengthen, this method became obsolete. Finally, the last way this method was used was to ink only certain sections of the film to give ambience to various scenes, such as gray or blue colors for night or dark scenes, or red to represent fire scenes. But in the end, due to the avalanche of productions, the inking method was totally abandoned.
Show me the ring and I'll jump right through. I used to travel single, we chance to mingle now.
Founded in 1915, Technicolor appeared to bring a revolution in cinema, being the company that really was a pioneer in achieving it. But also, success did not come overnight. The first years of the company were complicated, but at least they never gave up. The technique they used to give color was based on using primary colors, but only using two. And it wasn't until 1922 that they managed to create a more complex subtractive system. And although it was still based on the primary colors, it allowed them to insert color scenes in black and white films. But then, some time later, the goal was achieved, a film entirely in color. And film was on with the show. Released in 1929 and produced by Warner Brothers, with a running time of 1 hour and 44 minutes, this film would be the first film to have color from beginning to end. And later, thanks to other advances, it was finally possible to use a third primary color, thus having the three primary colors, green, red, and blue. And in 1932, these advances would be implemented for the first time in the film Flowers and Trees, produced by Walt Disney, making this the first full-color film. Followed by the short film of The Three Little Pigs, also produced by Walt Disney, released in 1933.
I've got a funny feeling that I'm falling. Show me the ring and oh boy, I'll take it from you.
For more than 20 years, Technicolor completely controlled this market. So anyone who wanted to add color to their productions had to go through Technicolor, rent their cameras and work with one of their technicians. As well, you could only develop the tapes and make copies in their labs. But everything would change in 1950, when Eastman Kodak, or better known as Kodak, would present an even simpler system. It was even possible to use it with any type of camera of that time. Sound was also an element that was tried to be implemented very early in the industry. But as we have seen, these were implemented in a rudimentary way. In the beginning, films were not sound as such. Instead, live music was used to give atmosphere to the films, both with orchestras and sometimes with just a musician with an instrument, in order to add emotion to the film. But if we talk about real sound films, the first tape of synchronized sound dates back to 1894. And this is the Dixon experimental sound film, created by William Dixon, and with a duration of only 17 seconds. It features Dixon himself playing the violinist, and next to him two gentlemen dancing to the music. To achieve this, use would be made of the cylinder phonograph and the kinetoscope, both devices created by Thomas Edison. In fact, William himself would collaborate with him to make this little tape. And thanks to this, together they would create a device that they named the kinetophone, which was able to reproduce the tapes made with the kinetoscope, synchronized with the sound of the phonograph, resulting in the this tape. Unfortunately, the kinetophone never became popular. Soon after, William Dixon abandoned it. That, and together with the arrival of the cinematop created by the Lumiere brothers in France, caused that the kinetophone was not the expected success. Some time later, in 1899, a new device would appear, the Cinemacure phonograph, or phonorama. This had a similar operation to the kinetophone, but with some differences. For example, it required the use of headphones, but it also had some improvements, such as a better quality cylinder system. Thanks to this invention, they were able to project short films of opera, theater, and ballet at the Universal Exposition of Paris in 1900. These were the first tapes exhibited publicly with sound. However, even with the success of this presentation, there were two major drawbacks in the system. The first was synchronization. In order to record and reproduce the images and the sound, two separate devices had to be used. This made it difficult to initiate operation and maintain synchronization between the two devices. And another problem was the fidelity of the recording. So the first sound systems produced a very low quality sound, which could only sometimes be solved if the actors spoke directly to the recording devices of that time. This, and together with the fact that audio technology did not yet have electrical amplification, which made it impossible for the audio to cover large spaces, would end up imposing serious limits on the type of films that could be created with direct recorded sound. Faced with this, many filmmakers would try to further improve this system, and although some would achieve improvements, these still had many problems. They also resulted in very expensive devices, so the success of this never came. For many years, several methods were tried to achieve sound to the movies, but among them, we can highlight the optical sound. This technology began to be developed in 1907 by the French inventor Eugene Lust, and consisted of transforming the audio into light waves, which were recorded directly on a celluloid tape. But even with the breakthrough, Lust never took advantage of his innovations. And it would not be until 1919 when the American inventor Lee D. Forrest received the patents for optical sound technology. D. Forrest, along with the help of another scientist in the field, Theodore Case, would manage to improve the technology, and in 1923 he would present the first commercial sound film.
Aberdeen, yes. Sweet Henry, yes. And Robert Sam, yes, sir. What you tell about Affectionate Dan? Affectionate Dan? Yes. Oh, man, the chickest chick that ever did cheat. Yes,
which was a series of short films released under the name DeForest Phono Films. And later that same year, he would release the film Conchita Pico, which would count with the participation of the Spanish singer Concha Pico, giving her name to this same film. However, the DeForest Phono film system would be used until 1930, when finally the phono film business was liquidated. Almost at the same time as DeForest, in Europe, 3 German inventors patented their own sound system, which they called Triargan, which was also based on optical sound. In September 1922, they would present a public screening of several sound productions, including a film called Der Brandstifter, or The Pyromaniac. And then the following year, in 1923, the Danish engineers, Axel Petersen and Arnold Paulsen, patented a system where the sound was recorded on separate wide strips running in parallel with the picture reel. The French production company, Gaumont, would authorize and briefly put that technology into commercial use under the name Signphone. Parallel to the systems mentioned above, another system was created. This was the sound on disc technology, recording sounds on disc and playing them on a phonograph that was connected by a mechanical interlock to a highly modified film projector, thus achieving synchronization. Finally, in 1925, Warner Brothers would acquire this technology and name it Vitaphone. And with this, in 1926, it would release the film Don Juan. And then the following year, in 1927, it would release The Jazz Singer. These were the first sound films that had a great commercial success.
Wonderful pals are always hard to find. Some folks have one, some folks have none.
And then, in 1928, they would release The Tenderloin, which would be the first film with dialogues. Although being the first to achieve this, the film, which had a duration of 88 minutes, only had 15 minutes of dialogue. Fortunately, that same year, Lights of New York would be released. And this would be the first fully talking film in cinema.
Where you been all day? I've been waiting for you. Look, there's a kiss from Cinderella. From who? It's from Scanlon. And we're okay. The bootleg rap against us has been dropped. And we can go back to the big town tomorrow. Great.
Okay, we've already explored how color and sound were implemented in film. But now, what was the first film to implement these two elements at the same time? To date, the 1929 film On With the Show is considered to be the first film to be in color and include full sound. That is the information that comes out when searching the internet, and in most places that are dedicated to finding this information. But the truth is that there is a film even older than On With the Show. The year is 1914, and right at the beginning of that year, in New York City, many people saw a new film which was not made for commercial purposes, but for the purpose of giving a great message. The film we are talking about is the photo drama of creation. Produced by IBSA, the International Bible Students Association, today known as Jehovah's Witnesses. This film, which had the particularity of having a duration of 8 hours and divided into 4 sessions, was the first tape to combine color and sound. This production began with a presentation by Brother Russell, who directed DIBSA at the time.
Is presented by the IBSA, the International Bible Students Association. Its aim is public instruction along religional scientific lines and in defense of the Bible as the inspired word.
And then, it recounted various biblical events, such as the creative days recounted in the book of Genesis. From biblical times, such as the Exodus, as well as from the modern era of that time. All of this using both color slides and staged with actors. In order to bring the tape to life, some of the techniques we have already reviewed that were available at the time were used, such as the inking of frames, to give color to several scenes and to give ambience in several sections of the tape, and the sound recorded on disc. To achieve the projections to the public, the Bible students made them with the resources available. This also meant having to synchronize the images and sound manually. But even with that, they achieved good results. By the summer of 1913, thousands of people had already seen the photo drama. Unfortunately, the outbreak of the First World War that same year completely shortened the screening of the film, causing it to fail to reach more people. But still with that, the film undoubtedly deserves a lot of credit for being the first film to use color and synchronized sound at the same time. Well, that's all for me. If you want to see more content like this, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel. So this is just the beginning. I'm Rob Static, and I'll see you around in the next video. Good night, and stay tuned.
In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do. I've lost all ambition